What if Germany actually won the Battle of Britain? Not just survived. Not just bombed London harder. What if Germany completely destroyed the Royal Air Force, invaded Britain, and forced the British Empire out of World War II entirely? Would Nazi Germany have won the war? Because in 1940, that outcome was far more possible than most people realize. After crushing Poland and humiliating France in just weeks, Germany looked unstoppable. Country after country collapsed under blitzkrieg tactics. The Netherlands surrendered. Belgium surrendered. Norway surrendered. And France, one of Europe's strongest powers, was defeated in only 6 weeks. Suddenly Britain stood completely alone. And Hitler believed Britain would eventually surrender too. But there was one massive problem. Britain was an island. And invading islands is incredibly difficult. Especially when the British Royal Navy still controlled the seas. Germany couldn't simply send troops across the English Channel while British warships waited nearby. So Hitler needed something first. Complete control of the skies. If Germany destroyed the Royal Air Force, Britain would lose its shield. German bombers could attack military bases, ports, factories, and cities without resistance. And once the skies belonged to Germany, invasion suddenly became possible. That was the entire purpose of the Battle of Britain. Beginning in the summer of 1940, massive waves of German bombers and fighters crossed the Channel every day. Their mission was simple: destroy the RAF. At first, Germany came terrifyingly close to succeeding. British airfields were constantly bombed. Radar stations were attacked. Experienced RAF pilots were dying and Britain could replace them. Some British commanders genuinely feared total collapse. And then Germany made one of the biggest mistakes of the entire war. Instead of continuing attacks on RAF bases and radar systems, Germany shifted focus toward British cities. Especially London. Hitler wanted revenge after British bombers attacked Berlin. So the Luftwaffe began bombing civilians during what became known as the Blitz. Night after night, explosions lit up London. Entire neighborhoods burned. Thousands of civilians died. But strategically, this mistake may have saved Britain. Because now the RAF finally had time to recover. Airfields were repaired. New pilots were trained. Radar systems stayed operational. And slowly, Germany lost momentum. But what if that never happened? What if Germany continued relentlessly targeting RAF infrastructure until British air defenses completely collapsed? Because without the RAF, Britain becomes extremely vulnerable. German bombers could attack almost anything they wanted. Military factories, ports, railroads, fuel depots, naval bases. And eventually Germany could attempt the unthinkable, Operation Sea Lion. The invasion of Britain itself. In real life, many historians believe Germany probably lacked the naval strength for a successful invasion. The British Navy was simply too powerful. Germany had limited landing craft and weaker naval forces. Crossing the Channel on British attack would have been incredibly dangerous. But if Germany fully controlled the skies, everything changes. German aircraft could constantly attack British warships. Dive bombers could destroy naval fleets before they reached the invasion zone. Submarines and mines could weaken British defenses even more. And Britain in 1940 was already exhausted. The evacuation at Dunkirk saved many British soldiers, but most heavy equipment was abandoned in France. Many divisions inside Britain were poorly equipped and unprepared for a full-scale invasion. If German troops successfully landed in southern England, panic could spread incredibly fast. Imagine hearing German tanks rolling through English towns while enemy aircraft dominate overhead. For many civilians, it would feel like the end of the world. And if London eventually falls, Britain might be forced into negotiations. Especially if Germany offers peace in exchange for ending the war. Now imagine how much world history changes after that. If Britain exits the war in 1940, Germany suddenly no longer faces a Western enemy. That means Hitler can focus almost entirely on the Soviet Union. More soldiers. More tanks. More aircraft. More fuel. More resources. And most importantly, more time. In real life, Germany invaded the Soviet Union while still fighting Britain. That split Germany's attention badly. But without Britain, Operation Barbarossa becomes far stronger. And the Soviet Union could face complete disaster. Because even under terrible conditions, Germany still reached the outskirts of Moscow. Now imagine an even larger invasion force with stronger logistics and no fear of British bombing campaigns damaging German factories. The USSR might genuinely collapse. And if the Soviet Union falls, Germany suddenly controls enormous territory stretching across Europe. Oil fields, factories, steel production, food supplies, millions of workers. At that point Germany becomes one of the largest empires in modern history. And now the United States faces a terrifying situation. Because America relied heavily on Britain as a base for fighting Germany. Without Britain, launching future invasions into Europe becomes vastly harder. No D-Day. No giant Allied airbases close to Germany. No easy way back into continental Europe. And politically, America itself might hesitate. Many Americans in 1940 wanted to stay out of another European war entirely. If Britain collapses quickly, isolationist movements inside the US probably grow much stronger. Some politicians may argue that Europe is already lost. That fighting Germany is hopeless. Meanwhile, Germany continues strengthening its empire. And without constant Allied bombing campaigns, German industry keeps growing. Advanced submarines, jet aircraft, long-range missiles, potentially even more advanced weapons research. Thankfully for the world, Germany still had one massive weakness: Hitler himself. Because despite Germany's military success, Hitler constantly made terrible strategic decisions. He underestimated the Soviet Union, ignored logistical realities, interfered with military commanders, and increasingly made emotional decisions instead of rational ones. Even if Germany conquered Britain, maintaining control over a gigantic empire would still be incredibly difficult. Resistance movements would appear across Europe. Occupied populations would constantly fight back. Supply lines would stretch thousands of kilometers. And Germany's economy still struggled with long-term shortages. But despite all of that, a German victory in the Battle of Britain could absolutely have changed the outcome of World War II. Because Britain surviving in 1940 did something incredibly important. It kept the war alive. Britain became the unsinkable base that allowed the Allies to continue fighting Nazi Germany for years. Without Britain, D-Day probably never happens. Western Europe may never be liberated. And Germany's empire could survive far longer than anyone imagined, which is honestly terrifying to think about. Because for a few months in 1940, the future of the entire world depended on who controlled the skies above Britain.